So I didn't really need any more of these, but I was watching, and at $10, it was an offer too good to let go. In 1993, I paid several thousands for a computer that was nothing near the specs of this box, but there was popular software for it. So I was expecting it as another simple job to make it one of my Armbian units, but what happens is when it loads the kernel to start up, it just starts and just instantly reboots and never does anything else. I tried, the usual things, don't say I didn't. So I thought maybe there's something wrong with the bootloader, so I'll just take that image I had for the last one, which I thought they were the same thing, and put it on there. Trouble is, it never turns on again. So if you've corrupted your internal flash boot sectors, there may be some options still, but you're looking at a situation where you're getting close to just having something useless. So on the internet, there's one video and only one thing that told me what to do to get out of this hell. It turns out they were thoughtful enough at the factory that a lot of these boards have some pads where if you short them, it'll go into DFU mode right away very conveniently, even more conveniently than the usual reset method. Originally it didn't seem to work what that guy said that was in the picture previously, so I was hoping I could short some pins on sort of alternate package spots on the board that I was hoping would link up to the underside of the BGA. I was pretty well sure I messed up something on the system, but at the last minute I shorted the 2 points aggressively that the person mentioned, and it did go into DFU mode. This is the screen capture of after I successfully flashed. So luckily that person mentioned what he was attempting to flash was some sort of a Slimbox thing, which is an implementation of Android TV. What remains good about it is it really implements all the features of the hardware. So originally I thought, well, I guess I have, guess what? An Android TV. But I kept poking my nose in it, and I found another solution where someone had made sort of a boot environment for Android TVs that have put up broken bootloaders, which is, I think, the problem here. So I decided just to keep this and run Armbian off of a USB stick because it's kind of interesting, it's useful, it's fully implemented, it's got more features, and there's some interesting games. So when I was messing around with all this, I broke the antenna wire off of the antenna inside, but it still works, but it never really worked that well. This I can use these routers as a network repeater. It's a very strong link. So even with the broken antenna, you can see here it being listed as an H9X3. That's when it was using wireless, but before I was using that. So the internal audio either doesn't work properly or I don't have the right cable for it, which is possible. What is interesting about this unit is it has an optical out, but I don't have an optical cable. If I did have one, I could potentially hook it into my stereo. But what I've done before is I've managed to collect all of these USB audio dongles, and usually I'd say that's a waste of time, but they actually come in handy for this, and it works quite well. Yeah, some of these Android games are really cute. They're really well done. So this is the performance of the YouTube app.
And that is just the start of what the map is hiding. There is a comet crater in the middle of this province that formed nearly 2 billion years ago.
I was reading what other people have been doing, and I was considering making my own sort of boot kernel kind of thing that has its guts that were somehow sucked out of the old original unit. So I think what's happening here is that his program, which luckily I just read and installed properly, sort of gets its way into the boot process and kind of sets up the environment a bit. The only problem is that the biggest problem is I only get half the memory that's actually in there, 2 gigs. That's pretty tight. So that kind of limits my use of the box, but it's still not bad. It still could be useful for some utility applications. I could have maybe put it on an SD card, but it's kind of hard to eject them, and it's probably going to break eventually. So I just use this unused 32 gig dongle here, so everything Armbian is happening on that stick. And earlier on, I manually overwrote the boot sectors with the Armbian mainstream boot sectors, so it seems to want to boot off USB fairly easily. So what I did was I was looking at that list and I saw there's an SM1 uboot.gz, and I thought that could be useful. So I ungzip that, put it as u.boot.ext on the the boot partition, and I changed the DTB to SCI 610. I tried other DTBs. That was about the best. I didn't try every last one. The wireless does not work. The memory is limited to 2 gigabytes. The Bluetooth needed a firmware file I got from LibreElect, but it does work as far as I know. One thing I learned after the last video is that there's a place where you can change the CPU frequencies, and I managed to get it from being around 1500 to 1900 in this case. There really shouldn't be that much different between this and my firmware box, but you can swear it almost seems to be doing better in 3D. So I'll just leave you with some board photos. I think it's a nice board. You'd probably want to have a better heatsink than that one. So again, I put a glue gun blob on the end of that antenna so it wouldn't short anything out. I could dig up a replacement somewhere if I really wanted to, but I'm never going to use that anyway. Thanks for watching.